Okay, it's time for the fourth daughter. Fourth daughter, she is a, let me make sure I'm in the camera here. She is a, wow, okay. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, so now we're at the fourth daughter. And the fourth daughter, she is a Virgo sun. She is a Scorpio moon and a Cancer ascendant. Now that's that brings me back to the element that this family bloodline shares. You know, her father is a Cancer ascendant, and he is a Scorpio stellium. You know, the patriarch from the second video about this transgenerational abuse series that I've been doing on this particular family. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go to her chart. Put my glasses on so I can see. Okay, she's got a big stellium in her fourth house. She has her Venus, her Sun, her Mars, and her Pluto in her fourth house. She has, I'm going to go to her fifth house because it's like, you know, another stellium here. Her fifth house, she's got Mercury conjunct Uranus, and then her Scorpio moon. What I'm going to be talking about in this video, like the other videos, is you know, the substance abuse, well, this particular individual didn't get the mental illness, and I'm going to explain, you know, why I think that that's so. Okay, so where does the substance abuse show up? Where does that show up? She has a square. Her fourth house Venus square her Neptune in her sixth house in the sign of Sagittarius. And Venus is pleasure seeking. Neptune, you know, is escapist. And they are square to each other. Venus square Neptune. Okay, she also has her North Node loosely conjunct her Neptune. Her Neptune is at 7 degrees Sagittarius, but her North Node is at 13 degrees Sagittarius. And the Scorpio moon, you know, factors in. This individual, she doesn't seem to really have a lot of emotion and empathy. I'm looking at her first house, you know, her first house is in Cancer, and she's got Saturn there. And, you know, the bad side of Cancer is, you know, the moodiness, the bitchiness, the pettiness, you know, and you add Saturn to the equation, and Saturn is limiting, critical, it's cold, it's icy, and that's her. That's her first house. I mean, the house of self. I mean, it just that, and she takes pleasure in hurting other people. She really, really does. Okay, now there's a spiritual dynamic at work here, and I don't even know if I'm in the camera. I'm trying to be in the camera here. There's a spiritual dynamic to her Mars conjunct Pluto in her fourth house. All right, her Mars in her fourth house is sextile her North Node in her fifth house. Mars is navigation. Mars is action, taking action. The North Node is being on track for what it is that you're supposed to do, you know, with your life or with your life purpose. And that isn't always a positive thing, you know. it is also negative. The negative happens. Pluto, you know, the Pluto side of it is that she, I believe, is here to dominate. It's about domination. She's here to take over. If you think in terms of a crime family, that she's the one who's going to take over when, the matriarch and the patriarch, are too old to do it. Speaking of the patriarch, his Scorpio stellium falls in her 5th house. His Sun, his Mars, and his Mercury fall in the 5th house. And on his chart, her Venus, her Sun, her Mars, and her Pluto fall in his 7th house of partnerships. So Pluto and Mars conjunct there in her 4th house. I believe that she is, like I said before, that she is meant to take charge of things, once the matriarch and the patriarch are too old to, to continue running things. The sisters that have the mental illness that she doesn't have, they have, their ascendant is really heavy, very heavy. A lot of activity going on, on the ascendant angle, with 3 of the sisters. And she doesn't have that. She's got Saturn in her 1st house, but she doesn't have a heavy ascendant angle, the way that the other 3 sisters do. But, she does have the substance abuse. She does have the meanness, the coldness. Her 5th house, she's got, Mercury conjunct Uranus in her 5th house of children, and she's got her Scorpio moon there as well. And, Mercury is, words, communication, attitudes, mindset, vibes that you give off, that you communicate, just without even saying anything, just with your thoughts and your energy. And that is her 5th house. And that's how she treats her children. Back to the substance abuse, the Venus, Venus square her Neptune. I know her Sun is also her Sun is also sextile her Neptune. And with the square, with the Venus square there, the pleasure principle going on there, that's how, the addiction is manifesting, on her chart. She also has Jupiter retrograde in her 9th house of spirituality. And Venus is in opposition to Jupiter. And Jupiter is, Pisces' traditional ruler, but with the opposition there. I don't know, Venus, pleasure, Jupiter, also pleasure, and there was something else that I was looking at. Oh, okay, the fact that, I believe that sometimes the 6th house can be the home area, because that's where all the parties happen, that's where, the drunk fests happen, that's where, the fights happen. And the 6th house is the daily round. I mean, it's the daily regimen, the daily routine, the thing that you do on a regular basis. And that's where Neptune is. And it's in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius ruler, Jupiter, is in the sign of Pisces and in opposition with Venus. So, yeah, her 6th house and her North Node loosely conjunct in her 6th house in Sagittarius, with all that other stuff going on. I see addiction. Her moon in Scorpio, they don't process their emotions very well unless they're evolved and conscious, and I'm talking about individuals who are not conscious. That's another factor as well. And I don't believe that a trine is always a positive thing. She's got her moon in Scorpio trine Saturn in her 1st house in Cancer. And it's like a trine is like a pass, like a free pass, like an easy pass. It's like if something is going to flow harmoniously and easily from one place to another, it doesn't always have to be a good thing that's able to pass that easily. And so, all of that limitation, with Saturn, and then all of that, coldness and meanness, with the dark side of Scorpio here, and they're trying to each other. Not a pretty picture. Now, back to her house of spirituality and philosophy, the 9th house, Sagittarius house. She's got Aquarius on the cusp of that 9th house. And Uranus is, you're both, Saturn and Uranus rule Aquarius. And I'm just going to take Uranus. And to have Uranus on the cusp of your 9th house, and you come from a house where you were, brought up in a cult. Whether it's Saturn or Uranus, it's still a bad picture. Because, Uranus, is shaky, it's unstable, it's, shocking, it's violent, it's cruel. And those are some of the Saturn traits as well. Not a very spiritual person, not a very conscious person at all. And she's got Chiron in her 11th house in Aries. And she has a social life, but, it's a bunch of addicts and drunks. A lot of them functional, but they're all repeating, the same cycle, with their kids. And it repeats and it repeats, it repeats, it repeats. And I do believe that, she is meant to carry the torch. Even though it is it's a sad one, when you have a family where this transgenerational abuse is happening, this narcissistic abuse is happening, and whenever children are hurting, they're supposed to shut up, and then they get used to it, they get used to the dynamic, most children, they believe that when they're being hurt that they did something wrong. Most children believe that. And at some point, it becomes normalized, and then they pass it on to their children, and the cycle keeps going and going and going. A lot of these families, they'll die out. Some of the families, they end up getting caught by social services. But if there's no real moment where it's time to pay the piper, it's time to, cut the bullshit, and it doesn't usually happen, and people are not conscious that way. Most people, social services has to come in and take children away, or if they're clever enough, if there are enough of them that are strong enough, they will carry on the cycle, and they'll stand. Their government will stand. Their cult, will remain in place for generations. It'll just go on for generations, and anyone, who is conscious, is considered weak. And usually it seems that way because the conscious ones, I mean, waking up to something like this is a very, very painful thing to do. And when they come in conscious, and I'm not saying all of them are weak, but when I say weak, I don't mean, insignificant. I just mean that, the onslaught of all the negative energy can be overwhelming. But these people can't make themselves not see what they're seeing. Those are the ones who suffer in these malignant narcissist family groups. I'm not going to get into other groups. I'm just going to stick to the family. And what happens with the children is that once they normalize everything, they silence the pain that they feel, with the alcohol, with the drugs. Some of them will do it, with video game addictions. Some of them will do it, they'll watch television 24/7. And they'll start having, tantrums, like they're going through withdrawal, when they can't, if they can't get their television fixed, like if the lights go out, because of a storm or something. But as soon as that television goes back on, they're just back in their fantasy world, and they don't have to see anything, they don't have to think about it. It's as if they did, shoot up or something. Because now they're all nice and calm and they're comfy, and they don't have to think about, what's happening around them. They don't have to think about the children, the grandchildren. They don't have to think about anything. So, yeah, the normalization of addiction and abuse, and then the silencing, the no-talk rule. You dare not. The kids know. They know that you can't talk about this. Your feelings don't matter. And if you break the rules and start talking about it, you'll find out soon enough that, what's more important, our comfort or your feelings, our comfort or your pain. I took it, so you shut up and you take it, and shut up. Just sit there and shut up. And that's what they learn. And in the next video, I will be dealing with the brother, which is scary. And I'll be talking about those individuals who, are awake, and the ones within the family system who have become, somewhat conscious, and how things, have turned out for them. And with that, I'm going to stop the video, and I'll see you next time.